This Liberty Sports Update is brought to you by Beacon Credit Union.
Coach, if you want to kind of just giving us a little bit of an insight of what's gone on since we had our last practice. We did finish 5 practices in the spring, but we did have our spring game scheduled for this upcoming Saturday, which has been canceled, and then indefinitely suspended practice. So if you want to give us a little update, Coach, then we'll open up for questions.
Yeah, it's just a very odd time. It's very different than anything I've ever experienced, and I was really enjoying the spring practices. The five that we got in, we were very fortunate to get them in, and certainly thought that was something that we needed. But everyone's in the same boat with that. Some didn't even get any practices in, so. Obviously, with the health crisis that came and the uncertainty around the virus, there was no question what was the right thing to do, and the health and welfare of our students and our athletes has to come first, and our staff, and our staff's wives and young kids, and all of that, and trying to decide what exactly that looks like. For people that are in decision-making process is not real easy all the time. So we went on spring break after that last practice. So we've really only been back for a week, and we're just still trying to process, what this looks like. There's no real end game. And as coaches, we work on for 26 years now, my yearly calendar has been the same. And I don't have practice to script today or film to watch. I've practiced yesterday, and recruiting is still right now the same, other than you don't have them coming to campus, but you certainly can still communicate with them. But and so we've kind of flipped. Normally what we do now, we've kind of flipped with what we normally do in June, which is, in June we would be game planning for the first 3 or 4 games. So now we've kind of flipped that, and that's what we're currently doing, since we don't have spring ball to get ready for, and recruiting. And then obviously one of the biggest hurdles, concerns that I think, as I talk to my friends in the coaching business, that we all have, is just the well-being of our students that are not around us. And we don't have our hand on them. We don't, they're being asked to function academically differently than what is the norm, with online and not having access to the tutors and the things that they typically have. I know our academic support staff, I met with them last Friday, and they're doing an incredible job, but it is a challenge, and that is a concern for a football coach. And so our staff is daily, required to communicate with their players in regards to how the academics went for that day.
All right, let's go ahead and open it up for questions. Go for Coach.
Hey, Coach, it's Hank with AP. Are there any football-related activities going on, or is there any one-on-one workouts, or any kids on campus?
I think there's 22 that are in Lynchburg. I think most of them are in off-campus living situations. It's hard for us to kind of monitor that, but we've communicated, and they're able to get still their food in a to-go compliant way that the government has set forward, just like restaurants. I think they let us. It's all to go, and it's. I think they limit the number of people that can get in that line to get the food. There's there's no team activities going on. I just don't think that that's prudent. But Dom is doing a phenomenal job of trying to relay to them, here's the best practices to stay in as good a shape as you can. Here's some great workouts that you can do. And we'll continue. We'll kind of evaluate that from week to week, Hank. We're on week 2, and right now we're going to continue with the safest practices possible that we have.
Have you entertained the idea at all that there may not be a football season?
Hmm. I see people tweeting about that and talking about it, and Hank, I think anything is possible right now because I just don't know. I truthfully, I don't think any of us have been through anything like this, and so it's, what is the end game, and when is the end game, and when do you say it's time to return to the practice of a normal life for the sake of economy and all of that, as opposed to the risk that's involved with health for people. Man, I'm certainly glad I don't have to make those decisions. And certainly, as much as we all love football and the football season, I think is a good thing for our nation. It certainly is not worth the risk if we don't have a control on this virus. And I think that's why all football coaches are stressing to their players, their fans, their families, let's take this thing seriously so that we can hopefully, get back to doing what we all love to do and love to watch. I didn't say it earlier when you asked me. We are allowed to have 2 hours a week with our kids via this Microsoft Teams here to do position meetings. So those are occurring. But that's a difficult question for me to entertain. It's hard to imagine it, but when you see people that have some credibility say that this is a real possibility, and they may have access to information I don't have, it certainly is concerning.
I mean, it seems like, to have a viable season, players probably aren't working as hard now as they would be if they were on campus.
The answer to that. That's they're absolutely not.
Right.
They're probably eating donuts and Burger King.
The freshman 10 is gonna become the coronavirus 15 for a lot of people. But teams typically reconvene end of July, early August to get ready for a season. So if I don't know how far back it would have to be pushed before it would
I don't
be
think that,
like
those dates that you mentioned there, those dates would not work in my opinion. I don't. Our kids are here all June and July, as they are everywhere, getting in the shape that they need to be in to prepare for fall camp in August. So if you're saying that a date that they could come back would be August, I don't see how in the world the season could begin on time. Because you just couldn't take the risk of, the kids are going to be, like we all know, if it continues to where that players and universities are doing online and players are scattered, some home, some in the town, I just don't see how in the world the safety of our players, they wouldn't be ready to perform at the level we needed them to perform unless they got back here at least a month before fall camp began.
You've brought this up in the past. Would you want to see if you're able to get back for June, July to see, like you mentioned, in the past any camp? Would that be a possibility that would also help?
Yeah, I'm not for. I didn't hear everything you said, but I'm not for the extension of fall camp at all. I think it's too long to begin with for me. But what I have been a proponent of that I would love to see us do in the future, regardless of what happens with this, is I wish we would do away with spring ball and allow our players to have a normal full semester of being a student athlete, work in the strength staff and rehab, and get as strong and as physically fit as they can, and give us 2 weeks in June to do a mini camp like the NFL. Because then you have all your signees here and you got a full roster. Whereas when you're going through spring ball, you only have about 58 kids, and 3 or 4 or 10 of those are just recovered from surgery. And it's I know the old school people, say, well, we got to have spring ball, but man, I would much rather have it. So those first 2 weeks of June, when you're doing your prospect camps here, that's an awesome time. Do your prospect camp in the morning, do your mini camp with your team in the afternoon, and you have all 85 scholarship guys there. that are getting to learn, and then you break after that 2 weeks, and they just go back to training, and we don't touch them again until August, till real fall camp. So, do I think that that's something that that I think people will look at if this gets over? I sure hope so. We're all here anyway during those 2 weeks of prospect camp. So just combine, and I don't even care if we have pads or not. It really doesn't matter to me at that point. It's just about learning the system and the way to which we practice and go about our business to get ready for fall camp in August. I think that would be very helpful.
You mean that as a change, like a permanent every year thing, not just this year, right?
I do. I'd be for it. It doesn't. Everything today, Hank, is about the health and welfare of students, and we use that, but then we do some things that really aren't. I don't think are the best, and spring ball is one of those. I'm not saying I don't want to practice. I want to practice in June when I have 85 scholarship kids here, not in March when I have 58 on scholarship and we have 10 that came off surgery.
Right.
I think the risk of getting more injured doing that is greater, and I just think, why would we not want to go ahead and acclimate your signees to what you do? And if you just wait till June and give us those first 2 weeks in June to do these practices, I certainly think it would be more beneficial to every program. But I may be in the minority. I don't know, but I sure would like to be able to introduce our kids to everything we're doing before August.
So you have a daughter that goes to Liberty, right?
I have two.
Did they go back when President Falwell invited them back?
Oh, well, they live with me, so they never left the town. I think there's certainly been. I get hammered with my phone all the time with national media hitting me. I don't know. My take on it is not quite what, I think President Falwell, certainly has evaluated the fact that, we've got a lot of students that had nowhere to go, and so I don't see that we've done anything different than any other university. We're online, and we our students had the option, if they didn't have a place they felt like they could go, like our international students and others, and they felt like this was the safest place for them to be, to get food and support and a place to live. I don't want to tell them they can't do that. And somebody's got to explain to me how we're different than any other university that's doing the same things. Maybe you can do that for me, Hank. Help me out.
Well, it just seems like when he kind of decided that he kind of announced he was kind of reopening the school. A lot of people thought, when every other school is closing dormitories and saying disperse, and 10 people no more than 10 people together. Obviously, your phone blew up because a lot of people are like, what is he doing?
Yeah, I don't think that any university in my eyes has closed. I just think we have to go about business differently, and maybe that's just maybe there was some. I don't really know. I don't keep up with it a lot, but certainly when I'm on campus right now, it's a ghost town,
Right.
And I know there's signs everywhere about no more than 10, and I know they're practicing that in the food lines and in the one cafeteria they have open right now to feed anyone that needs food. I believe that everything that's being done here is the same. Now, other universities may have told all their students they have to leave. I don't know that. I haven't. I'm kind of I'm glad that we didn't do that. I'm not for anybody to be around each other, but I certainly am not wanting to tell students who couldn't go back to their homeland or to their country that they have to leave. Those decisions are never easy, and you, as a leader, you're going to take criticism one way or another. But I do think it's been a bit different than what I believe is true here. I don't see. I talked to my other coaching friends, and I think we're functioning the same way that other universities are, and maybe our wording could have been a bit different. But we're doing the same thing.
Well, you may have noticed he can tend to be a bit controversial.
I really don't notice that. I just, he's been so supportive of football and the vision he's had here and what he's done to foresee things from the future to build this place to what it is. Leaders are controversial in general. They're people that they either are going to like you or don't like you and want to tear you down or build you up. But I know that he has, all of his people here, their interests at best of heart, and in particular students, which is, they're our customers.
There's a ton of basketball players and spring sports participants who, especially seniors who, suddenly one day they woke up and their career was over.
Yeah.
The whole idea that, football could be threatened next year. What would you suggest as a way to make sure that kids that would have a senior year maybe get 12 more games, 13 more games to impress scouts and all that stuff? What would be your expectation if there isn't a season?
I think that everything that I've heard discussed in regards to the spring sport kids and to the basketball kids who didn't get to experience the postseason, I think I would be open to any of that. I certainly don't think that. I think they should be given the option. Here's the problem with a coach like me, that when you ask that to Hank, we have our opinion, but I'll be the first to say that I don't have the plan. And
Right.
and we as coaches, are probably quick to tell you, look, I think it's a great idea. I don't want my kids not to have a senior season and get a chance to be evaluated, and I'm certain the others don't either. On the back end of that, do I have the plan that pulls all of that together, and how do the scholarship numbers work, and where do you give and where do you take, and do we still get to sign 25, and all the issues that come with that? Do I have the answer? Am I willing to say that I have the plan for that? No. And so I'm quick to put myself in and try to put myself in both sides of it. I hate it for these spring kids. Do I think they should have the option? I hope there are people that are working on that, right now, but I don't have the totality of the plan that makes total sense. But if you're asking me if kids that miss out on their last year should have the option to have another year, I would raise my hand. Absolutely, I'm in favor of that. Now, somebody smarter than me figure it out.
I think the NCAA is talking about that today, maybe.
Gotcha.
Coach, if the season were to not start on time, we were kind of talking about that. Do you see it playing out where they extend into December, maybe push the bowl games back, or just shorten the season? What do you think is the most likely scenario there?
I would think the most likely, and again, I have no basis for this. No one talks to me about those discussions, but I would think the most logical would be just shortening the season and keeping the bowls on time so that it doesn't affect the calendar year at the universities. Would make the most sense, and make some adjustment as to, depending on whatever the percentage of games you got to play. Certainly the percentage to qualify for a bowl changes. So that would make the most sense to me. But again, I don't have, I'm not in those discussions, but I don't see how it would benefit universities or student athletes to extend it and move bowl games back, and then you're overlapping more with other things that are going on. I think the quicker we can get back into a normal calendar year at universities, the better off everyone will be.
Coach, with spring ball canceled, do you think that the NCAA will make the adjustment or the change to allow you guys to do like a mini camp in June, or do you think that more of the focus is extending fall camp?
I really have no idea how to judge
Okay.
that. I just don't see why would we want to extend fall camp beyond the 4 weeks that it already is. I think without playing games, I think if we're back doing things, it makes more sense to me to break it up and to get a couple weeks there in early June, and then them go back to training and then come into fall camp. But I really have no clue what people are thinking with that are on those boards and decision making. But I would hate to extend camp. I think to me, young men today, they're sort of like me. You have a little bit of ADD and a little bit, you can't. I mean, if you're asking people to practice 6 straight weeks without a football game, that to me makes no sense.
Yeah, that's
Or
why I
5
didn't know
weeks.
if things do change, if coaches will come together to propose the early June if social distancing isn't still in effect, of you guys being able to do that, or what action coaches might take here in the next month to
Yeah,
make
we've
that
had some
happen
emails.
versus fall
Yeah,
camp
we've had some
extension.
emails going back and forth with the AFCA. Todd Berry, who runs that, certainly listens to our voice and then tries to represent the majority of what we feel to the people in decision making. That would be the process that we would go about to do that.
Coach, with all the unknowns out there, I mean, I guess it's kind of an unknown too, as far as what you have with your team. I mean, you only got a handful of practices in. What do you feel like you were able to learn about them, if anything?
I really thought they met or chased the standard that we wanted for 5 practices. I still have a lot of questions, a lot of unknowns. I thought Malik was getting better from practice to practice, but he's got some improvement to do on his accuracy and stuff, but he's a heck of an athlete. Chris Ferguson learning the system. JB's back from an injury. He really needed these 2 at quarterback. So, I think linebacker-wise, those, and safety-wise, those were the 3 spots. Every group needed reps, but quarterback, linebacker, safeties, we really needed to find out. And we had some safeties here that just got here at mid-year that we were really trying to find out about. And, actually had one more coming in, after spring break, enrolled in D term. And so, we're going to, but look, every program is that way. So I'm not sitting here saying we're at some disadvantage. Again, I think whenever it starts back, whenever that is, we'll all be on equal footing. And I think we'll have to coach them up.
With Malik's athleticism, does that excite you as far as some things that you're able to do now that maybe, Buckshot was obviously great, but there were limitations with what he could do as far as running the ball and things like that. Does it excite you to kind of open things up a little bit more?
Well, that's typically who I've been most places, and I've had someone that can be a dual threat. Whether or not we chose to do that a lot, you don't want them to take unnecessary hits if they're your guy, but as you're playing a defensive coordinator, the thought of this guy may add a +1 run into a call, it's a problem. And it's certainly a problem if a guy that can run like Malik can. So, yes, it does excite me, but Buckshot was incredible. Look at the numbers, but, he couldn't outrun Damien. And, so no offense, Damien. But, man, we'll miss the heck out of his arm, though, and his accuracy and the way he could throw. So, now you got to find, another way. And that always excites me, though, about coaching. I don't know. I kind of make myself feel like there's people out there that says he can't do it again with another quarterback. And we've always, if you look at our quarterbacks from Ryan Applin to Bo Wallace to Chad Kelly to all the ones I've had, their numbers have been incredible. So it motivates me to have another guy to find maybe a different way to do it.
Coach, how much is your recruiting? I know spring and summer is a big time for you. How much does this affect your plans there?
Can you say it one more time? Is that John?
This is John. I was just saying, how much does this affect your recruiting? Because I know spring and summer is a big time for your plans there.
Yeah, I think that's another discussion that's got to be had at the the higher levels of the NCAA as to, all right, so what happens? Can you hear me, John?
Yes, I hear you.
All right, looks like you're talking right now. I don't know. I don't understand all this stuff, but
Huh.
so what are we going to do if you're not able to do any spring evaluations? Are we still having an early signing period when you weren't able to go get the 6th and 7th, semester transcripts? There's going to be, this is going to cause, are we at a disadvantage? No, but, obviously you wish they could come to campus right now, which they can't. And it really looks like we're probably not going to get our, days in April in early May to go on the road. I don't see that changing right now, which I'm okay with. Certainly we're FaceTiming them and doing virtual recruiting and all the things that everyone can do now. But I do think the evaluation process is going to be slowed down. And I'll be real curious if we're having an early signing period. Man, how many people will honestly, number one, choose to sign then because they didn't get to go to, unless now what will change it, John, in my opinion, is if this social distancing and everything is lifted and you're able to have your June camps where they can come to your campus and see. I think you're right back on track with recruiting. But should you not have that period and then you get into the season, if we have the season, and I don't see who's going to feel really, really great about issuing their 25 scholarships in that early signing period without the things we usually have to get to know the student athletes.
What about your current signing class with a lot of schools being shut down, high schools? Are you at all concerned about being able to get them all qualified or any of them not qualifying?
We've got a meeting in the morning at 9:00 just to update us on that. Every school system is different. Every school system is deciding different things. Obviously, most of our kids we signed are in good academic standing, and we don't foresee that changing. But there's always the 3 or 4 that you have that needed to finish in a certain manner, and it's unsettling. And who do you get the information from right now with schools being shut and people being closed? And we got to get a plan. We're going to do that tomorrow at 9, but it's that is something that is concerning, and I'm certain there's some schools sitting there that probably signed more than we did that were at risk, and this is going to be very uncomfortable.
Coach, this is Alan York. Take us into those virtual meetings you're having with your players and what's going on during those, and how are those administered by your staff?
Well, we just got it. We just got everything set up for that the end of last week. So we're just in the beginning stages. What we've defense had a meeting at 8 this morning, offense at 9, and we had proper social distancing for those meetings, by the way, or we're either joined by people that were on this team. So the plan now moving forward is to continue through our installs that we were going in spring. We were coming back from spring ball and we had done 3 days of install. And so now, along with our academic updates that we need from them at least twice a week, now getting into board work on, all right, here was install number 4. Here was install number 5, and then actually showing clips. You can put the clips of the games on the board, or we can teach it, instruct it, and then show it. That'll be the plan moving forward for the next few weeks.
Coach, have you spoken to Antonio Gandy Golden at all, just about his draft preparation and maybe how all this stuff has impacted him during his time?
Yeah, it's unsettling like everything else. I've got on my list of things to do to try to reach out to him today and tomorrow and just encourage him. I need to find out the place he was training was down in Florida. I just need to find out what's going on with that, But with the pro days and all being canceled, I don't even know how much it. I mean, he definitely needs to stay in shape, but he needs to stay healthy and safe too. And so I'm curious how some of the prospects for the draft are handling, what they're doing, because it doesn't appear that any pro days are going to take place. And as far as my knowledge, and I heard the other day, Jason, you probably know better than I on this, but it sounds like the draft may go on as scheduled. Is that accurate from your view, or?
That's what they've said.
Yeah. So, I think he's done all he can do to this point, and every indication I get is that he's, I think he'll be drafted in the early second, third, or fourth round.
And just if I could follow up on that, you obviously dealt with a very public health issue last year. Has that experience kind of maybe changed your outlook for the way that you have maybe reacted to some of the concerns over this virus now?
It's funny you say that. I was having a conversation this morning with a guy in my office, and I said, 5 years ago, I probably would have blown this off and been life as usual, and certainly hate for those that were going through something of a difficult time. But once you have a health scare where they tell you were really close to going on to glory, which that's not a bad thing either. If in heaven's a much better place than here, but you certainly not, you're not wishing for that today. But I think once you have that experience, you kind of view things differently. And when you hear of people that seem very healthy and contract this, and it attacks you different ways. And, I've heard some say I've been tested positive, but I feel great. But then others, are tested positive and it ends their life. I think the health scare that I went through probably gives me more sensitivity to the fact that this could be very serious for a lot of people.
Coach, are NFL personnel people leaning more heavily on you for help in evaluating other players or any players that they might be looking at?
My staff here?
Yeah, or NFL personnel people.
Oh, I got you.
Because they can't work them out.
Yeah, I think I've talked to every team about AGG. They asked me about others, particularly from the SEC, but I've been out of the SEC for 2 years, really 3 seasons now, and so I just I really don't have a knowledge of that. I feel like I don't have enough information to make an opinion. So really the only ones I talk about are our current kids at Liberty. But yes, there's no question that those guys are reaching out a lot more.
Coach, what about the LFC that you guys have moved into now? How much can that help you once you're able to show it off to recruits, but also from a operation standpoint? Because I know you guys have been working out of makeshift offices.
It's an unbelievable facility. It's still got some punch list things that are going on with the construction guys. But man, I'm sitting in my new office, and I'm just we're very, very blessed. The vision. I said this somewhere the other day, but I think you'd find hard to believe or hard to find a group of 5 type school that we view ourselves as that's put the money and where their mouth is, so to speak, in the vision of creating and building a football program. And we're thankful to President Falwell and Ian and the board and everybody for doing that. But this, our indoor now and this operations center, I think it rivals many Power Fives and certainly the Group of Five.
Coach, do you know anyone that's been affected by this virus personally? I saw that Sean Payton had been diagnosed, I think, last week, but is there anyone in the coaching world or family or friends or anybody that you know that's been personally affected?
I do not to this point, other than Sean, and I do know he and I are friends, and he's doing well. So we're thankful for that. But to this point, I was talking to a national media guy last night, though, and one of his texts says he's confident that we will all be affected either by it directly or indirectly through family members or friends that we love before it's over. And so our prayer is that for those that are affected and those that have loved ones that are, that they come out the other side of it for sure. But to this point, no.
What kind of guidance have you given your players? There's a lot of young people in this country that have not taken this seriously. Went on spring break to Florida and the beaches and all that. What kind of guidance have you given your players, and how much have you emphasized that this is a significant challenge for everyone?
I struggle with that too, because I've got a daughter I have a 21, a 20, and a 17. Now all three have approached this differently, and I try to always put myself in those shoes. And when I was 20, I probably felt invincible, and so I've had to have some difficult conversations with one of my daughters. The other one is like, stay inside and go walk on the trail by our house, and that's pretty much it. Then there's another one, man, Dad, I can't stop living, and I'm keeping my distance from them, and I struggle with that some too, I really do. I enjoy playing golf. When I do go, I play in my own cart with my disinfectant wipes, and I don't get around others more than 6 feet away from me, stay away from me, so I know that our kids are dealing with that too. I'm constantly sending them texts, reminding them of here are the best practices to protect ourselves. Please take this serious. Do not think this is some type of joke, or this attitude of it won't happen to me or it can't happen to me. That's not true. That is a lie. That's not accurate. It can. And so here, while we're pick the things that you think are really important to you doing, and then can those things be done while practicing proper social distancing and disinfectant and all those things. You can't just ignore it.
Isn't it weird to see people and not be able to shake their hand?
It is, but I sure don't do it. And that's hard for me. There's a lot and some people reach out still, and I said, I can't shake it. I'm sorry. But really, the only places I'm willing to go are home, and I come to the office every now and then, and we keep our distance. And if we do have a meeting, it's in the team room where everybody's like 30 feet apart, and we only do it with certain numbers. And then I go to the golf course from time to time, but I'm very aware of practicing what's been directed.
All right, let's take one or two more questions for Coach. We want to be respectful of his time. So let's anybody got a wrap-up question for today?
I was going to ask a question regarding the pro day, and when guys like Buckshot, Jesse Lemonnier, Elijah Benton, Solomon Ajayi, guys like that who maybe were 10, 8 rounds, how much does
I think your question was how much does the lack of pro day affect some of the kids that probably were looking at hopefully getting a late round draft or a free agency?
Yes.
There's no question it's disappointing and it hurts. The thing that you hope is just that there's enough tape there to get them in a camp somewhere, and that's their chance. There's also the XFL that hopefully will come back. That gives people an opportunity. So that's the hope is that you get them in a camp. But there's no question Pro Day was another chance for them to prove they deserved that opportunity. So it definitely hurts.
What's your handicap?
I can look at it right now. It's my back has been since my surgery and the infection and stuff. I was down to a 2 last year, but I'm probably about a 6 right now.
Coach, did you get to watch much of the XFL? I mean, what's your take on that? Just since you brought that up.
Yeah, I TiVo'd it. I TiVo most football games. I had some former players that were playing in it. I TiVo'd the St. Louis because they had Jordan Teamu on there, and who I recruited and coached some. So I loved watching it. I think they had a unique idea with the kickoff. I think it has some merit to the safety of collisions on that play. But I enjoyed watching the games.
Have you watched any of these?
I don't like all the mic of the coaches.
Have you watched any of these replays of games that you know the outcome of?
I haven't. I got text the other night. We must have been on when we beat Alabama, back at Ole Miss, because a bunch of the Ole Miss people were texting me saying how much they enjoyed that day.
Excellent.
All right, Coach.
From a local level, from the Bedford Bulletin, what's the status on your football camp you had scheduled this summer?
Totally up in the air. We still have them on the calendar, but obviously we would have to have the government and everyone feeling good about the social distance and the large group gatherings changing where we currently stand on those things happening. So right now they're on the books, but certainly can't move forward with them until things change.
All right, Coach. Well, we certainly appreciate your time. We hope you stay safe and healthy, and you and your staff, and maybe we'll catch up to you here in a shortly time again. So thank you for your time.
Y'all stay safe, guys.